Hello, you are very welcome to the first episode of our Focusing Pathways podcast with Therese Ryan and myself, Elaine Goggin. We will be interviewing people who have integrated focusing into their lives, both professionally and personally, and in different ways really made focusing their own. In this episode, Therese speaks to Tom Larkin. Tom is a focusing teacher from Dublin. He is also a certified coordinator with the International Focusing Institute and a focusing orientated therapist. Tom is also trained as a forest therapy guide and offers guided forest bathing walks to individuals and groups in person and online. We'd like to thank Tom for being willing and trusting to be our first interviewee. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about Tom and many courses he has to offer, check out the Irish Focusing Network's website, focusing.ie.
So thank you, Tom, for joining us for our very first podcast. And I feel very excited and very privileged because you are my first focusing teacher. So it feels really appropriate to have our first interview with you. So thank you so much for agreeing to be the first person.
Okay, and thank you for asking, Therese. And I feel I'm honoured by your invitation, and also delighted. I just love talking about focusing, so why not?
Great. Why not, indeed? So, Tom, I'd like to start off by asking you how focusing came into your life.
Yeah, I bought uh, Eugene Gentleman's book, Focusing, over 30 years ago. And I had been a meditator for many years, and also a student of psychology. And here was a book that brought these two wonderful things in my life together. So that was the first kind of thing. And then I came across a workshop on focusing in 1990 out in Killiney. There was an English woman, Marie Ross. She was also a religious sister who was offering workshops on focusing. And I went to two of those. And then she left, as sisters are wont to do, went back to England or France or somewhere. And that was it then for another, it was what, 2003 before I came across focusing again. I was doing a course in counselling. And as luck would have it, the therapist that I went to, Barbara Fennelly, had just completed her focusing teacher training. So I mentioned to her that I had done focusing and that I found it really useful and so on. So yeah, she she did, I suppose, focusing oriented kind of therapy with me. And I had been to another therapist the year before. And all I can say is that the sense that I got about my sense of self, my sense of connection with people, and everything else like that changed utterly in those sessions. So at the end of it, then I decided to try and train. I wasn't sure exactly in what or how or anything else like that at that stage. But Barbara gave me Mairead O'Brien's name, and I met Mairead, and that's really where things took off. I became a teacher of focusing, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being a coordinator. So that was more. It took me a long time to become a coordinator, actually. So I was a coordinator in training for, I don't know, maybe 11 years or something like that. It was a long time anyway. Anyway, yeah, the way I look at focusing is, and I think I've said this to you before about that it's like I had a life before focusing and one after. That's the kind of difference that it made to my life. I wouldn't say I'm not perfect or anything else like that, far from it. But I do know that it has helped me to slow down, to largely think or to sense before I do things, before I make decisions. It has certainly made a difference to my relationships with people. And it has helped me through some really, really difficult times over the last number of years. So it's been a wonderful addition to my life. Yeah.
Can really hear that. I'm so struck by the words you used a little earlier, that your sense of yourself changed utterly. And I wondered, I suppose a little of what you've said now describes that, but I'm wondering, is there any more you want to say about that your sense of yourself changed utterly?
That's a deep question. I had a difficult childhood, and I certainly carried a lot of anxiety and fear and a really negative sense of myself into my adulthood. Meeting with people over the years changed a lot of that, chipped away at kind of the hardness of the hard shell that I had made around myself. But I think the way that people work with me in focusing, I think accelerated that chipping away. There are still some hard places left, but that certainly was what did the kind of work inside of me. So I don't mind myself too much now. I used to like myself at all, but we get on now, me and I.
Yeah. So it really sounds like focusing changed your relationship with yourself in a very deep and powerful way.
It certainly did, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I suppose where I saw that most clearly was a number of years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago. I was diagnosed with cancer, and the day that I had the meeting with the consultant who informed me about this, I know I didn't ask him any questions when he gave me this information. I was numb. The only thing I can say about it. And when I came home, having talked with Margaret, my wife, I went up to bed and I stayed there for maybe 2.5 hours, just moving in and out of focusing, meditating, that kind of flow. And after that, I felt such a kind of a lightness and a sense of connection with me, who I was, about the cancer not defining me in that moment or in any moment, and being okay with whatever was going to unfold. I had a real sense of, it's like I looked into a dark pit, an abyss, and I was able to be with that. I sat with that, and I don't know. Eventually, it's just a sort of a calm descended upon me, and that lasted right up until the operation. So that's the kind of, I mean, it's like in those moments I knew that focusing was just such a wonderful kind of addition to who I was and the way that I am in the world.
Yeah, and what you describe really brings out the power of it, isn't it? How focusing can help us, allow us to be with whatever is there, even as you say, that dark, deep pit. Thanks, Tom. And so you've really described your journey with focusing, and maybe you might talk a little now about where you are now with it and what's important and how you're using it.
Well, it's interesting. When I learned focusing, when I learned how to do it, it took me quite a while. I wasn't in touch with my body and making space for my body, for I suppose just trusting the kind of gut feelings that I had and all of that. But that took me quite a while to really get the hang of it. And again, what accelerated that kind of connection with focusing and understanding of it and everything else was teaching it. So I had to dig deep in me in order to be able to share my understanding and way of doing focusing with other people. So I've been teaching focusing for I don't know, I think it's 16 years now. And I can say that every time that I teach focusing, I learn something new. I think part of it is that in order to teach it, I have to sense how it is inside. And then when I get feedback from people, I learn something new about it every single time. So, and that's another kind of journey. I reckon that I'll still be learning focusing whenever, some years hence. So that's kind of one aspect of it. The other thing is that all of my life I have been interested and have had a sense of connection with nature. And my earliest memory of that was I had two uncles. One of them gave me a little book on birds, and the other one gave me a set of binoculars. So I used to spend long periods sitting, observing, which is what I think allowed me to be able to meditate easily in later life and indeed engage with focusing. Because there's something about that kind of patience that's required to be with whatever is inside. So yeah, and I've been involved in various things over the years and have have kept in touch with the developments in, I suppose I might describe it, the evolving degradation of the planet. So a few years ago, I trained as a guide in forest therapy, and I have found that it's another kind of contemplative experience. So the bringing together of focusing and the guiding in forest therapy has been a revelation for me about how deep one can connect with the world around us, with the more than human world, through these two very complementary kind of approaches to, I suppose, just being. And that's a kind of a passion for me now. And I suppose from that, what I'm interested in exploring in the future is about how focusing can not just change people's kind of relationship with their environment, but how focusing can change people's relationship with other people. Because I think that's the problem on the planet at the moment, is this sense of division and what Margaret calls othering. You know, that sense of disconnection from the world around us and from other people, that allows us to see people as being less than what they are. I think focusing has so much to offer in that regard, and that's something that I want to explore more with other people.
I have such an image of you as that little boy with the binoculars and your guide, your bird book, and the image of that little boy looking out through the binoculars at nature, and then as the adult using focusing to check inside, and that patience you describe and that willingness to be whatever is there. Really lovely.
And I think even as you say it, just connecting with what you say, I think the other thing that I'm sure I had it in spades anyway when I was 6, but curiosity. You know, again, one of the other qualities of focusing is being curious about whatever we find. So patience and curiosity, the two major qualities, if you like. And as I say, it took me a long while to learn, I suppose, self-compassion, that other essential quality of focusing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tom, you mentioned how important it is. I mean, the nature work, and also your sense of that being connected to our relationships, that ability to somehow help the disconnect in the world. Can you say a little bit more about that and how you see focusing related to that, or being able to help that?
Again, that's another deep question. And again, from my childhood, my dad was very involved in the St. Vincent de Paul Society, charitable organization. And I followed in his footsteps with that. I got very involved in that. And through that, I got involved in youth work. And then my first real job was as a youth worker, as an education officer with a youth work agency. And that was about helping people develop their communities in such a way that there was space for young people, particularly, that there was the possibility of a relationship where they could connect with the adults in their community. And it was a very powerful kind of change process. And I haven't ever lost that way of looking at the world around us. I suppose I learned the tools, if you like, of social analysis and how the world is constructed. And I was looking at a video recently of Jean Gendlin talking about society and how society is organized, and about bringing focusing into that kind of situation. So I suppose that's it. It's bringing that sense of connection. That's something that I was involved in, that I saw it as being very, very worthwhile. I could see the difference that when people listen to each other, when they come together to act together for something bigger than themselves, in a sense, but that has a benefit for them at the same time, that can be extremely powerful. And that given that focusing makes everything go better anyway, then bringing focusing into that kind of, especially in that listening phase of community development, of social change, that has to be something really worthwhile.
Yeah. And that word change that you used earlier on, I was struck by the way you used it, and that, I don't know, the awareness of how focusing can, I don't know, bring change or help us see what's possible. And I'm wondering how that relates to the work you're doing now with nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting using the word possible. Generally, used to talk about possibility spaces that open up when we focus, and we make a space or whatever. Possibilities unfold, emerge, and one of the most important questions that I've come across in focusing, it was one that I think Anne Weiser Cornell credits Barbara McGavin with it, which is what's possible now. So it's like that we engage in focusing, and yes, sort of a shift happens, and we may feel better, we may have new insights or whatever. And then it's this other question, that what Gendlin called that kind of action step. What's possible now? So it's that's really it. What's possible now? What's possible with focusing? You know, individually, collectively. That I think I don't know. That's where for me, that's where hope lies.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm really
in that.
noticing my own response to that, the excitement and the agreement and all of that in response to that question, what's possible now? It's really lovely, and it feels like a really nice way to bring our interview towards an end. And what would you say is possible now for focusing in your way that you're using it, or in a broader sense?
Well, again, I suppose COVID seemed to close doors, literally as well as metaphorically, if you like. And what emerged from that, and this is largely thanks to Mary Jennings and Margaret Quinn, the creation of the space, a possibility space, if you like, but a virtual space where people who knew focusing could gather together, and new people have come into that. And we've created this network, which is expanding all of the time. And I think that's the kind of thing that something was made possible in that way, this expansion, this connection. And I think that's a model for change on a much wider scale. So that's
Mm.
my hope anyway. Whatever about belief, it certainly is a hope. And, like that notion of active hope, that's something about that we live into it and we make it happen. So that's really it.
Yeah, and it was that sense of active hope really that brought the Irish Focusing Network, as you say, to what it is now and reaching so many people and changing all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a beacon in this world.
Definitely, Tom. So is there anything else before we finish? You want to check in and see, is there anything else you'd like to say about your personal focusing journey or anything to do with it?
Have we got another half hour or another hour or two?
Maybe
No, I
not that
leave.
long, but
Yeah, it's again another aspect of that same COVID phenomenon is the use of this medium, of Zoom. That not alone were we able to connect in Ireland, but certainly through the International Focusing Institute, um, we have connected across the whole planet. People from all the continents, well, maybe not Antarctica, but certainly most of the continents anyway, that we have managed to connect. And that's kind of brought the world a bit smaller and also expanded the possibilities. The possibility space has expanded considerably through that. So maybe that's a good place to.
yeah. And is it your sense, excuse me, is it your sense that focusing virtually is, how is it different or from focusing in person, especially in partnerships that we're familiar with in the focusing network?
Yeah. So focusing is an intensely personal experience. Do you know what I mean? It's like I do this within my own sphere. I have found focusing works best in partnership, unless there's something really major, in which case focusing, I find it easy to do focusing on my own, but it has to be something that has grabbed me, if you like. Um, Otherwise, focusing in a partnership works best. And for me, it makes no difference whether that person is there as a presence on a screen, or in person. That I can have their attention, their compassionate, interested attention, and once I know that that's there, that they're with me in this as I explore whatever's happening inside of myself. That could be on screen, in person, or at the end of a phone. I don't think it makes an awful lot of difference that it's the attention of another human being, offered freely. There's nothing like it. It's just utterly wonderful. So no, I don't believe there's any difference. I think it's different with a group. Groups is a bit different, but I think certainly in partnership sessions, it's.
So it sounds like you're using it in focusing in your own life in lots of different ways. So
Yeah.
virtually and in partnership in all those ways, but also I liked the way you said when something grabs you. So maybe say a little bit about that.
Well, I gave you the example of that time in my life when I was diagnosed with cancer, when I had cancer, I was just diagnosed with it. Yeah, there have been many other times as well. Being anxious about doing an interview or giving a talk or doing something online or whatever. I find it very easy to focus by myself in those kind of situations. It's like they have the edge is much clearer, um, and the my emotional state is heightened. So it's much easier then to connect. I can experience it more easily in my body, and it's much easier then to connect. Um, when um, when life is going reasonably well and there doesn't seem to be an awful lot happening, then the presence of a partner, it's like helps me to focus, if I can use that word, and do focusing a lot easier.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The difference. It's lovely. So, Tom, I wonder, is there one or two or three words or an image or something that sums up for you focusing in your own life? The importance of it, the power of it, what it is for you?
Mm. Yeah, and I've been reading a lot about mythology recently, about myths, and what actually came when I went inside that time was Pandora's box.
Mm.
And in the opening of it, what was unleashed on the world were all of the things that we regard now certainly as uncomfortable and negative and in every way imaginable. And then, at the end of all of that, what came out of the box was the thing with feathers, hope. And that was actually what came to me, was a kind of something coming out of a box with feathers.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, that sense of yeah, the possibilities. Yeah, they're endless,
Mm.
really. Mm.
They're endless. What about Jenlin? How do you think he would feel about everything that is going on now with focusing?
I think he'd be very happy with it.
Mm.
He saw it as an evolving thing, and he changed things as he went. According as he learned, he changed, and I think that's how he saw things moving. And the one thing I would hate to see is something becoming very fixed around all of that. So that kind of evolution is ongoing, and according as more people learn it, um, we all have our individual ways into it. We all have our individual experiences and understandings and possibilities. So I think those kind of possibilities, um, if we share them, if we look at them, and we move forward in that kind of open way, I think I think he would be really happy with the way things are evolving, mostly anyway.
Mhm. Thank you, Tom. It's been so lovely to hear your story, and it feels like there's a lot more to say. So we may have to bring you back again for part two.
Thanks, Therese. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you.
Truly. Thanks a
Thank you
million.
so much.